are to be in pictures.
This podcast contains spoilers for Phantom Thread.
Yeah!
Oh, shoot. There we go.
Malfunctioning.
Oh, by the way, we did just open a can of yerba mate.
Yes, for those listening and not viewing, that was the sound of us opening our bottles of Guayaki yerba mate. Yes, we are rather enthusiastic about the way we open cans and bottles. And now the first drink of the show.
Already had a drink.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm drinking mint today in the glass bottle.
Mint bottle.
Because I'm already pretty hyped up. I've had 2 mates already today. So I don't want to have too much caffeine. The glass bottles have less caffeine than the cans.
Well, plus we went to go see Phantom Thread, which was, pretty
What, D?
energetic.
Well,
Mad hyped.
it might have been not Phantom Thread is not quite as energetic as its sister film Phantom Menace.
It's sister film.
They're slightly different.
They are a little bit different.
Yeah, I thought this was like a
slightly different.
like a prequel.
Right, to Star
It's
Wars.
not related. It's not a Star Wars movie at all.
That's
Yeah.
what I was misled about, too.
Yeah.
This was Ryan Johnson again, right? He was subverting yet another time.
Oh,
right.
wow. That actually makes it genius now.
Okay.
Oh.
We are really spinning out of control. We've just
That was
begun,
fast.
guys. All right, so welcome to the Talkies, brought to you by delicious Guayaki organic brand yerba mate.
Yes, sir.
Today we just saw Phantom Thread, Paul Thomas Anderson's latest film, supposedly the last ever film of Daniel Day-Lewis,
Supposedly.
Yeah.
which is either true or it's part of his method acting thing, and we'll get into that. I have a theory why he might have said that, even if it wasn't true.
I could see that.
I could see it being part of his act.
His thing. Yeah.
Preparing for a role where someone quits acting.
Well, he kind of
That's meta.
checks out in this movie.
What do you mean
But
checks
we'll
out?
get to that.
All right.
Let's start off with just a little introduction to Phantom Thread, in case you haven't heard of it. It's not like it's getting a lot of press or
not a whole lot.
It's not something they're advertising very heavily. It's definitely more of a niche film, more of an art house performance piece, character driven.
Very, very character driven.
It has, like I said, Paul Thomas Anderson writing and directing. He's most famous for, I'd say, There Will Be Blood.
Yep, definitely.
His other notable films being Magnolia and Boogie Nights.
Yep.
Aviator.
Boogie Nights.
No, that's
Scorsese.
Martin Scorsese.
Right. That was a different
That was another conversation. But yeah, he's good. His films always have a very powerful sense of aesthetic. They always look very good, and they always are packed with great performances.
Yes.
All of them.
Yeah.
Regardless of how you may feel about the movie itself and the way it's
Right.
told, they're always beautiful and well acted. Taylor is a huge Paul Thomas Anderson fan.
Yeah, I've seen everything he's directed, even most of his short films also.
Nice.
I just love his films. I just became obsessed with watching all of them for a while. So it was exciting when I heard a new one was coming out. I was like, whoa.
And that's
New
really
PTA.
what led us to go watch it today.
Yeah.
Was Taylor really wanted to see this. I love anything with Daniel Day-Lewis in it. He's been one of my favorite actors since Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah. I really like Daniel Day-Lewis. I haven't
great.
seen a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson's films, so I was curious.
Yeah.
I saw The Master, which I really liked. So.
Yeah, that one's crazy.
Yeah.
So let's just dive right in.
Yeah.
As soon as the movie was over, we all, in a sort of joking manner, began fist pumping and jumping up and down. We're like, "Woo! I'm so pumped!" because this is a rather somber, low key,
Very slow,
and deliberately
Yeah.
paced movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is not a.
It's not an action film.
This is not an action film. No.
It's not a really. I don't know, because I like movies like this, and I do have fun watching this movie, but it's not the kind of fun that most people mean when they say a movie's a fun time.
Right. Well, I mean, the filmmaker fun, I think.
I
is what you
suppose,
could
yeah,
say.
that'd be a better
Right.
way to put it.
You could tell by the audience that was there at the theater with us.
Yeah.
Oh.
How the age relation.
We were 40 years younger than the next oldest person.
Next youngest person.
Yeah. Mhm. Yep.
So what did you think of it, Kenny? Just
All right, well,
overall.
let's start with a quick synopsis, just so
Okay,
people know
yeah,
what we're
so I'm
talking
getting ahead
about.
of
So the movie itself, the short synopsis is that it's set in 1950s London. Reynolds Woodcock, who is played by Daniel Day-Lewis, is a renowned dressmaker. And when I say renowned, he's like world famous.
Yeah.
He makes dresses for queens and princesses, and is very wealthy and successful. Whose fastidious life is disrupted by a young, strong-willed woman, Alma, who becomes his muse and lover. And it's really hard to say that it is about any more than that.
No, yeah.
is
That's
pretty
much
straightforward.
right.
It's pretty straightforward, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
But with regards to how I felt about it, one of the questions I always come out with from a movie like this is, why did you make this film?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
What was it that made you want to tell this story,
Right.
Paul Thomas Anderson?
Right.
Other than, and this is a perfectly good reason, exploring a fascinating character,
Right.
right? It's just an exercise in character.
Like, are you saying Woodcock or Alma?
Woodcock.
Wood's more so Woodcock.
I really liked his character.
Yeah.
He was so peculiar. He makes you uncomfortable being
Yeah.
around him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the very get-go,
Mhm.
you know. And Daniel Day-Lewis is so good at tapping into these characters and making them believable. You really feel like this is a guy who had something weird went wrong with him in his upbringing, right?
Right.
Where he has this sort of unhealthy obsession with his mother's love
Yeah.
that he carries with him. He expects everyone to sort of shape their lives to his every need and wish and whim,
Yeah.
and gets very flustered if anything is not perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
Anything outside of his routine, is just a catastrophe.
Right.
Right.
And he ends up meeting this woman who they set up earlier. He's just dumped his last one, and it's time to bring in a new one.
Right in the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
And he has a caretaker in the character named Cyril. Cyril, played by Lancey Manville. She's like his personal assistant, but seriously takes care of him. And you have this scene at the beginning where she's like, your current lover is getting fat and old. It's time to kick her out and get a new one. Do you want me to ask her to leave? And he's like, yeah, you better do that. So
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So when he meets the new girl, Alma, played by Vicky Crepes, she's very good, by the way. I thought she did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
But I was led to believe, okay, this movie is about this woman who is like the character we're supposed to identify with as a normal human, is going to have to learn to put up with this very eccentric person and help him break his mold so that they can form a true bond, and get this other mother figure out of the way.
Right.
And she's a disruptor in his very organized world. And it looked like that's what the movie we were about to see was. But about 2/3 down the line, it completely changes. To being... You kind of figure out she's kind of just as messed up as him.
Just in a different skew kind of a way.
Right.
It's different
So again,
in an
spoiler
opposite
alert.
way.
What is revealed is she has that often examined syndrome in movies. We've seen this a few times in different movies, of someone who wants to keep making their lover sick so that they can always be taking care of them.
Right.
And I guess they end up with an almost perfect relationship or love, because he wants a mother
Right.
and she wants a baby.
Right.
It's so. I did not get that.
It
at all
almost seemed
from
like
this
he
film.
was acknowledging. At the end, did it feel like he was acknowledging that he knew
At the end,
that she was making him sick?
let's
Yeah.
not get too ahead of ourselves. Wait.
Yeah, we are getting.
We are already at the end. When when they brought in, first of all, should we talk about just opinions overall on the film?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Go ahead. You go first, D.
I go first?
Yeah.
I liked the film. I liked analyzing the film. This is very much a film that I would say that my wife would very much enjoy because it has that slow pacing. It's a love story, and it has the intricacies of emotions interplayed. And that's not really my deal, but I like watching the script play out and stuff like that. So it was interesting. So,
Yeah.
but I have further opinions. But go ahead.
I liked it a lot. I thought it was great. There was like maybe a few moments during the middle where I felt it lull a little bit, but then it kind of kept getting more and more interesting as you learn the nuances of Woodcock and his character and how he relates to Alma. That was probably the most interesting thing, was their dynamic was so pretty complex and difficult to figure out. But I think by the end, initially right when I guess we keep going back to the end.
Yeah.
Because it's the most interesting part.
It's because it's really what explains what happened, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that's what confused me a bit.
Because like how far, like 3/4 of the way into the movie, Alma poisons Woodcock without his knowledge, we think.
Yeah.
And
some foraged mushrooms.
Yeah.
Right.
And after that
Not the good
experience, no, the poisonous kind.
Yeah.
After that experience of she helps Woodcock come back to life pretty much, and that bond like made Woodcock all of a sudden just love her and want to marry her after being as he said, self-proclaimed like destined bachelor for his whole life.
Yeah, and it's because he felt the presence of his mother.
Yep, exactly.
In doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
if this is a love story, it's about how love can be really screwed up.
Yeah.
This is such a revelation to me. You guys talking about this?
Why?
Because it's because I didn't get that at all.
Yeah.
In here, because it's obvious now that that's what it is.
Right.
But I think the way I look at movies a lot, I have to say, is through the lens of like Christopher Nolan, where I'm very cold towards human emotion portrayed in films. Unless it's very cinematography, like, I don't know, interesting feelings or things that you can see and you can actually understand.
You don't have like a soul. That's what it is.
The further intricacies of human emotion is hard to figure out for me, at least for films. Sometimes for me, but what I saw when I watched it was a cold, unfeeling man who was unhealthily attached to his mom, but it didn't play out. It didn't keep playing out throughout the movie. So I kind of felt that as like took a back seat for his further character development, which was how focused he was on just his work.
Yeah,
like he was very much just a working guy. And then when Alma came along, it felt like, okay, the movie's like you said, Alma's gonna break this guy down, and then it was like, oh wait, no, actually she's assimilating, right? She's actually getting into his kind of work.
Yeah, and at one point she had like full on gone over.
Exactly.
And it was actually one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah.
You had he had just designed a gown for someone who was, I guess, very nervous about the wedding she was entered into. She felt ugly and I don't know. But at this wedding, she got plastered.
Right.
She was making a fool of herself and she passed out.
Right.
And so Alma goes to Woodcock and says, we're going to go get that dress back. She does not deserve to wear your dress.
Right.
And they actually go in
and take
it off of her body.
Yeah.
And she like reproves him and says, you're not worthy of the Woodcock name.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool.
And it was
I love
okay,
that.
so she's like,
Yeah,
now
so-
they're going to be like a team.
Right,
Yeah.
so that's what I figured. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And then she turns back into this wanting person who Woodcock should change for her, right?
Yeah.
Where she sets up the date night, and then she doesn't understand why he's not doing stuff, and so she goes to the extreme of poisoning him.
Yeah.
Takes care of him because now that's making his personality change to where she can love him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What I didn't get was at the end where
It's hard to get
Where he
because
changes.
it's messy. It's a messy story.
Right.
It's a little more put together and straightforward than Mother was,
yeah,
but it's still pretty wacky as a story. And I'll give you that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why it just wasn't
It
spelled out.
does not hit all your
I guess.
archetypical
I think it
spots
does.
the
I
way
think
you'd hope.
I think it does. It just doesn't explain it to the T. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's where I got lost from it.
I think I kind of that's what I liked about it, because to me it was definitely a character study, but it's a character study from the outside.
Yeah.
Like the point of view of the film is the audience, it's
Right.
not Woodcock's point of view or Alma's point of view, I would argue.
Oh, I would agree. Yeah, it's definitely a third person type of.
And I think
Film.
because of that, Woodcock's complex, deep emotional issues is not always present, and he keeps them very hidden.
Right.
And by extension, it's hard to understand him.
Well, see, but what you guys inferred about him does seem to be what was supposedly directed. I didn't
It's
infer that
because
at
we have
all.
emotional compasses.
Well, see, you don't have a soul, D, so
Yeah.
that's the reason.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what's happened to you in your life, but you're clearly numb to human emotion. But it's true, though, if you're not particularly sensitive to, like, the nuances of human emotion, then there's not much left on the screen in
No.
this movie.
There
Because that's
isn't.
all that it was about.
Right. So that's where I got confused.
Yeah, that can get
this is a
challenging.
love story, but it's, like, all tied up in your, like, psychology.
Yeah,
And it's a movie Sigmund Freud would have a...
Have a blast with.
Yeah.
it's a pretty challenging movie. Like, it's challenging without being like confrontational, I guess.
It's different,
or abrasive. I
It's
guess.
different through inference.
Yeah.
Is what I would say. Where you can read a movie like Mother, like only through inference, and it like depending on who you are as a person depends on what the film says. Right. That's completely different from what this film is.
Yeah.
This film is supposed to infer what you guys infer.
Yeah. That being
think.
said, it's still like it's a story that's hard to make a satisfying movie out of.
Yeah.
And
That's true.
and I'm not sure it will be very satisfying to many viewers.
It probably won't. Right?
In that instance, I think films that like leave the inference up to the viewer might actually be a little better.
Yeah.
So in that point, The Master was also a lot like this, and you told me that Paul Thomas Anderson, this is the way he shoots now, right?
Yeah.
Since there
Master
would be
was even weirder, I thought.
Yeah.
It was weirder.
The Master
Yeah.
is much.
That's what I
more
liked about it though,
challenging.
because The Master had this such nebulous thing that was happening
Yeah.
between the guy, the apprentice or Daniel Day-Lewis's character, and the Master himself. It was like this weird dynamic between the two, and you kind of just rode with them throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
So weird emotions got tied up and stuff, but this one has a binary story because you have a love story that's happening.
Yep.
So you're either rooting for them or against them, and that's it. That the Master kind of had like this whatever.
This crazy intertwined sort of thing.
So for me, it was like you saw the girl change, then you saw the guy not change, and now she's pissed at him. Now she's gonna poison him. Now suddenly he changes, and I was like, what? but you're right. It's because the mother thing and the love and yeah.
Again, but you're also. It's valid though, because what you're saying, because they don't make it straightforward at all. They
the
just
film?
let you. Yeah, in the film, they assume that you're gonna be able to watch. Like, it's completely performance reliant.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Those nuanced emotions are delivered through the performance.
So it's performance and I guess human nature.
Yeah. Rather than dialogue.
Rather
Or
than
even
dialogue,
showing.
cinematography,
Yeah.
and editing. Yeah.
I kind of feel like love is the bad guy in this movie.
Yeah,
so too,
kind of
yeah.
seems
It's
that
not.
way.
It's not the heroic thing that it is in many other films. It's not love prevails. It's like love,
Love
makes
is-
you do.
right. It's really fucked
Really
up.
weird
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
that are borderline immoral.
Right.
But Woodcock seemed to have sort of like he had like a fetish for it. Like he was like
Yeah.
into
at
it
the very end.
Yeah.
He's basically like, poison me again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that ending really came abruptly and sort of out of nowhere, and you're just kind of like, wait, what?
Yeah. When he's like, what did so he was eating the mushrooms. What did he say?
He had this look on his face
"I'm
like
hungry."
he knew.
I wrote down what she said. She said, "I want you flat on your back, hapless and tender."
Yeah.
Right. And he went, "Yes." like it turned him on.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. So that was.
Yeah, and he had this continuing like theme of whenever he was excited that he was starving, that he would eat a lot.
Interesting. See, I
don't
didn't
know
get
what
that
the
either.
symbolism of that was. One of the things that I was initially drawn to in the film was that we were examining a person dealing with obsession and how his obsession intersected with being a real human and having a normal life.
Yeah.
And I love these types of movies. I think that's a whole subcategory of film or genre are drawn man with an obsession movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's quite a few of them. A couple of my favorites are The Aviator and The Prestige.
It's a good movie.
But I'm drawn to these kinds of stories because I feel like I sort of flit on the edge of flirting with being that person,
Right.
Especially as a filmmaker and an artist, where it's really hard to tell yourself when to stop and knowing when. Knowing how much is too much.
Right.
I think the entrepreneur spirit is very much
business
that.
too.
Yeah.
It's a business thing too.
Yeah.
You mentioned Founder.
Right. Yeah, the founder
as
is
one of
definitely
Again,
follows
a
that.
lot of movies where these people like completely sabotage everything around them in the pursuit of being the best.
Right.
And he was definitely one of those characters.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely one of them.
Yeah.
He had a great performance.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's talk about Daniel Day-Lewis. So he's famous for being
Totally
the-
method.
Yeah.
the method actor.
Right.
Right? So supposedly when he did Last of the Mohicans, he went and lived in the woods for like 6 months to prepare for that one.
That's so crazy.
Like My Left Foot, he would only walk with whatever that leg was. He was only using one leg.
Is that the one where he plays someone with cerebral palsy?
I believe so, yeah.
There's a film where he had cerebral palsy and he had someone spoon feed him all of his meals
Wow.
for weeks leading up to the movie as well.
I remember that. I remember the story about that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Daniel Day-Lewis himself almost is like this person with this obsessive
Right.
thing.
That's interesting.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, so a friend of mine he's a very good acting teacher at a university in Utah. Well, he used to be. Now he actually runs a drama department at a high school in Utah. But he's very, very good. And I had talked to him about this idea of method acting before. And he actually sort of frowns upon it. And the reason why is because he insists that it's dangerous and unhealthy to you as a person. And while it might be a good way to tap into and deliver a character, but to go that deep into the character makes it very hard to come back out.
Yeah.
And Daniel Day-Lewis himself has said that when he gets so lost into these characters that when the production is done, when the last day of filming is done, he goes through a mourning period, a depression period, because it's like he dies. He has to let go of what he convinced himself is his new life.
That's
right?
crazy.
Subconsciously, he has pushed Daniel Day-Lewis away and put on this mantle of this completely other human being.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
That's really insane. Jim and Andy is a documentary that's based on Jim Carrey's portrayal of
Yes.
Andy Kaufman, who does the same, not the same exact thing that Daniel Day-Lewis does, but in this instance goes even a step further and says that he is the person who he's playing.
He convinced himself that he was tapping into like
the spiritual form?
spirit
Yeah.
of Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, I thought that's a really good documentary, by the way.
Yeah, it's
I need to check
see
it
that.
out. Yeah,
It's a
I
very
like Andy
and
Kaufman.
so is the original film Man on the
Man
Moon.
on the Moon,
It's
yeah.
really good.
Yeah, I like that film.
Yeah, and I guess when he played, when Daniel Day-Lewis played Daniel Plainview from There Will Be Blood, that he was just a terrible person to be around during like the production.
I believe it.
Yeah, because he was a sort of a
total jerk.
Sort of a nasty guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But should they even call this method acting? Because it's not really acting anymore if you're just portraying, right?
Well, it's
I guess
kind
that's a
of
term.
acting.
That's a term
But
method.
That's what my friend says. You know,
It's not real acting.
This is controversial, so I'm going to say right now it's not my opinion, it's his opinion. But his opinion is that method acting is actually the easier way out. It's more of a cop out.
Interesting.
And that a more talented actor, not talented, but a more trained actor,
right,
would know how to turn it off and on. Would know how to go and act.
Right.
Or play.
Yeah,
right?
pretend.
Yeah.
Remember, these things we put on stage are called a play.
Right.
Right.
Play a part and then go right back to who they are and leave that part on the set or on the stage. And that actually takes more skill.
Acting is a lot more difficult than I think a lot of people realize. Like, it's very, very challenging to let go of yourself and your like pride and be willing to put yourself out there and be vulnerable like that. It's like such a challenging thing.
To me, I mean, so I've only done acting very little, but the time that I did, it feels almost like free. Like you don't have to be yourself.
Yeah.
You can be whoever.
Yeah, it was like freeing experience for you.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter if that guy's like stupid or goofy or whatever. Like if I have confidence issues, that guy might not, right? And I can just do it.
That's awesome. You should act more.
I should act more.
Yeah.
Talkies is now played by Snake. I'm Snake now.
From
geez.
Metal Gear?
Metal Gear.
Metal Gear.
To learn more about Metal Gear, check out Confirmed, our video game podcast.
Plugging already. We have to plug at the end.
And now back to our regular scheduled program.
What an interesting thing that I've learned from great actors that I've worked with is that it seems, as I talk to them about, you know, what really helps them get into a character and how I can support them as their director, or what instruction or learning most benefited them as they learned their craft, how often that skill has nothing to do with, or at least what we would think of as acting.
Uh-huh.
Like, I've on more than one occasion said that the most important thing that they've ever got in terms of enhancing their acting ability was training on breathing.
Oh, interesting.
And another friend who got training on body posture, this thing called Alexander method, which it has everything to do with just how you control your physical body.
The Alexander method.
And it informs everything you do on stage, right? Because eventually your entire performance is going to be affected by the way you stand or slouch or relax your shoulders. If you're holding any tension anywhere in your body that shouldn't be there, it's going to completely change, everything.
I could totally see that.
And so I'm like, hey man, that was an amazing scene. How'd you do that? And he starts talking to me about like yoga and his muscles in his back. And I'm like, yeah, but how long did you have to rehearse those lines? Was it from memory? And he's like, no, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with this. So it's just so much more involved and nuanced than people think.
Yeah. I'm reminded of the Family Guy scene where, what's his name, Joe in the wheelchair is acting, and Peter says, "Get up." And he says, "I'm handicapped." And he says, "You have, but your character can walk." He's like, "I'm handicapped."
Wow.
A scene that really impressed me in the beginning, that to bring up once again, The Greatest Showman, to go back to that film, where they had that romance.
You were bothered by this romance, weren't you?
What are you talking about? We have not covered this movie.
He talked about it.
I thought in one of the
Shape of Water.
Yeah, in Shape of Water, I talked about The Greatest Showman.
Yeah, I'm not going to see it.
Don't see it. It's a bad movie. There's a terrible romance in it where, I can't believe I'm explaining this again. Zac Efron, Zendaya, they look at each other and they're in love.
Oh,
whatever.
yeah, I remember that, yeah.
So this movie does the same concept, but pretty much in every way, shape, and form a million times better when he first meets Alma at the restaurant.
Yeah.
And they look at each other and they kind of look back and forth.
Actually,
and it's so nuanced. It's really
That's
beautiful.
actually something I wanted to bring up. I forgot was that the first 10 minutes of the film, the character development was so much character development was done without hardly any dialogue.
Yeah.
Right.
Or
So-
cinematography or editing.
So in the first in the first few scenes, you had him just the way he got dressed and treated the people around him.
Yeah.
In the first few minutes of the film, you already knew volumes about Woodcock's character.
Yeah, and the kind of person he is.
Yeah.
But when in the exchange you were talking about, which some would look at and go, "Oh, love at first sight."
Yeah.
There's so much more going on there.
Right.
Yeah. So first of all, he does this crazy long order of what he's ordering from Alma's the waitress, and he orders like tons of food.
Yeah.
And she's just like, she's identifying that he's flirting with her, and then he takes her pad of paper, rips off the page, and says, "I'm going to keep this. You can remember it."
Yeah.
And what I got out of that is simultaneously I'm being shown that he is feeling out, is this someone who I can boss around? If I just give demands, does she take them?
Wow.
And she is showing, I kind of like that I'm being bossed around by this guy.
Wow.
That's kind of cool. So
That's amazing.
I kind of got half of that. Not full of that, but I totally got the whole, him testing the waters type of thing. But what didn't make sense to me was why she kept trying to get him later on in the film to fall in love with her.
I think she saw a challenge. Mm-hmm. She's like, look, this guy wants to go at it, and I'm like a fiery, French woman. I'm in. Let's do this.
Would you say that was her character being developed during that whole part of the movie, like the whole first half? Because I feel like his character was developed, and then she took some time with hers. Because I didn't get that from her.
I think they did establish pretty early on that she wanted to be in control and take control back from him.
Right. That's what I got.
Which is what it leads up to, just in a way that you didn't expect.
Right.
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 So they're just in like a constant tug of war, a power struggle.
It was a power struggle.
Yeah.
I didn't see, because like in the beginning, where she's getting bossed around, and then we have that weird, awkward, and cool scene where he's measuring her. And there's all kinds of like she's smiling because he's flirting, and then she's like weirded out because he's actually kind of bossy, and then flirting, and then bossy,
and then his assistant shows up.
Yeah, and then it's like,
and she's like halfway naked, and she's just uncomfortable.
What's going on?
Right.
Here?
Yeah.
So like that whole part, I'm thinking, okay, how is she gonna end up in love? Because obviously we have narration from the future.
I think she wanted the challenge.
And it's easy to say that. I didn't see that.
But she kept coming back,
right,
to this dude that was only putting up walls to all of her attempts.
So would you say that that's good filmmaking, or would you say that's just an interesting story?
Well, the way I see it is, I think it's established early on that Alma I think she understands the role that she's in, and realizes that there have been many girls before her, where she was in the same position. And I think when she realizes that, she starts doing experiments, where she starts experimenting with a surprise by being the only person there, wanting all this attention, doing all this different stuff to figure out what it takes to actually be in a real romantic relationship with this person, rather than this weird quasi relationship.
By the end, I don't know if that was ever her actual intention, a real romantic relationship.
I see.
I feel
right, because she got a kind of not a real one, but
this is weird.
This is a power struggle.
Yeah.
Right. What amused me was that, like I said, this was a movie about an obsession.
Yeah.
But by the end, I realized that it's not him that is the object. Like, she's obsessed as well.
Right.
She has a crazy mission that's like I said, it's not a romance. She wants to control him.
Right.
he wants to control her, and somehow they found a weird way of meeting in the middle.
Right,
in the
which
end.
was really weird.
Yeah.
Her, I think her character retroactively developed. And because when you see the end, you do understand, oh, she actually likes the poisoning, and he likes it, and she actually likes his reciprocation. Like, that makes sense to go back on the film and be like, okay, now I understand her character arc. But in the beginning, I don't feel like it was set up at all, except for curiosity. Like you said, I do think she was doing some kind of experiments until we got to the middle, where she was more taking control and tried to do the tug of war and everything. I don't think it was ever apparent, at least in the first third of the movie. It didn't feel that way to me.
Well, I got early on that she wanted
Something.
wanted to win a battle of. I mean, she said it in the very beginning.
Yeah.
They sit down and he does his thing. Like, this is how this guy gets power. I'm going to sit down like I'm the most powerful man in the room, and I'm not going to say a thing. I'm just going to stare at you. Right? And that's
Right.
what he does. And
Right.
in that early scene, she says, if we're going to do a staring match, I'm going to win.
Yeah.
That's a good line.
Yep.
I mean,
That's true.
she and she kept coming back when I think a normal woman would not.
Right.
yeah.
I did see. Now I did catch on with that.
And I
thought
think
that
as
was
soon as she
interesting.
figured out that this had been a pattern with him of finding a beautiful woman to be his show trophy girlfriend until they're worn out and they get a new one,
Yeah.
she's like, okay, challenge
and challenge.
accepted.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
They could do something different.
This is more of like a human behavior and examination of
Well,
psychology,
like a
film.
performance piece, is what I would say.
And,
Oh, yeah.
and great performances.
Yeah.
That's like the crux of the whole film.
and really
Yeah.
cool visuals. I mean, this is a
Cinematography is
beautiful
gorgeous.
movie.
There's some really really
And
nice
can we talk
shots
about the score?
so good.
That was a
It's so
great
good.
musical score.
Wow.
I didn't really notice.
It never stopped.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So good.
It was almost entirely piano, solo piano playing, and it had to have played for 2/3 of the movie.
Yeah.
Which is very unique for this kind of movie, right? Like this sort of film, typically you have less on the scoring side, you know.
That's funny. I felt like it was mostly silent.
But it wasn't.
There was a lot
piano
of-
was going.
I noticed that they mixed a lot of the music very low. So there's a lot of strings and stuff going on pretty much throughout that's mixed pretty low.
Except the last sequence, they brought in a stringed orchestra, like over dramatic.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought that
when
was cool.
she, from her going to pick poison mushrooms the second time all
Right.
the way to the end, it was like heavy.
That was heavy.
Yeah.
heavy duty.
Really heavy.
You can kind of tell when something malicious is about to happen or in the thoughts of happening when she's poisoning, mixing together the mushrooms.
Yeah.
You get those like,
The score.
bassier.
Well, and
It reminds me
strings.
of Blade Runner 2049,
Yeah.
where it's like, boom. You're like,
Well,
oh, something's going down.
another thing, just another interesting look into the psyche. Again, let's not forget, these aren't real people. This was all written by Paul Thomas Anderson.
Right.
Which is
Which
like,
makes
holy
all these
cow.
things
That's super
inferences
impressive.
and not written accounts.
But what I mean is that this all came out of his head.
Right,
Like,
right.
Whoa.
Right.
Yeah.
Whoa, man.
Yeah.
Where are you coming from? But when she's going to poison him the second time around, right? So by the end of the movie, we realize it is because she wants to make him sick and care for him again. But while she's preparing that mushroom, you think she's going to kill him this time.
That's what I was
Because she's
thinking.
pissed,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
Right.
You're feeling like that. But if you were going to kill someone, you'd want to be sure that they eat your mushrooms, right? And then we already had this big, long, like, reference 3 times that he does not like his food cooked in butter.
Right.
She adds
And
dollops.
certainly not too much.
Dollops of
And
butter.
so she puts the mushrooms in butter, and I'm like, oh, she chose butter. You know, it's almost like she wants to get caught. And then she puts more butter
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
top. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to poison you, but I'm also going to do the things you don't like
Right.
while I do it.
Well, I saw that part as a straight up challenge, right? Because as soon as she did that, I'm like, oh, she's trying to get his attention.
Yeah.
Right?
Right, but if you wanted to kill him,
Right, then you
would
wouldn't have done
try to
that.
be as like secret as
Yeah.
you could,
Yeah.
sneak it in there.
Yeah, that scene was really weird. Until the
Yeah.
end.
And when she
Actually,
poured
it was
the water, she like made it all noisy
super
Yeah.
noisy.
because
Yeah.
he hates sounds, I guess.
Oh, let's talk about the sound mixing real quick. So you were right about the low piano and stuff like that. Every sound that was something
Yeah.
sliding
Yeah, it
or
was
something like
super
that.
crazy
huge.
loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was huge. It
Yeah.
was so cool. Like when someone would scoot their chair,
Yeah.
it would take up the entire room.
Yeah.
And I think that was meant to put you in his
head.
skin.
Yeah.
Right.
And get you to
Like
understand
he
that.
he could not handle being disrupted, interrupted, or distracted
Right.
in any way.
I've never ever listened to someone scrape their toast and been annoyed, and this movie made me go,
Ugh.
"God, stop it!"
Especially when like she's like eating soup or something with a spoon and she puts her teeth like
on
Right.
his-
it's like
I realized that I did that. I've done that before.
Oh, yeah?
And I was like, "Oh no!" I could suddenly
Yeah.
feel everybody.
You know, now that I think about it, love isn't in this movie at all. This isn't a love story at all.
It's a competition,
Yeah, these are two people who want to win,
right?
right?
That's interesting.
But because of the nature of the competition, it ends up disguised as love.
weird.
Very weird.
Weird indeed. What was the part where she took out the little message that he sewed it?
Oh yeah.
What did
Said
that say?
something about a curse.
Yeah, something curse.
I
Weird.
couldn't quite
I didn't
follow
understand
that
that.
myself.
No. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure.
But I actually thought that the whole sewing messages into the lining of the clothes was going to have a much more, a much more interesting, be a bigger part of the story.
Yeah,
It was
I
just
did
a
too.
thought.
Well,
One-off.
there was something there.
Yeah.
But I couldn't quite figure out what it was.
I think it was just to add a little bit more character to him.
Yeah.
It didn't serve any plot purpose.
Really interesting visual choice. They did it a couple times when he was driving in his car, where they attached the camera to the back of the car.
Yeah.
Right. So
and,
there's a
and
lot.
was shaky.
Yeah, but they put it on
because it was hooked to the car. It wasn't on a trailer,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So there's lots of ways to shoot a car in motion. The most common way is you have your camera securely rigged to a car in front or behind, and then the other car is usually on a trailer attached to the camera car. So you
Right.
move in perfect synchronization. In this case, they attached a camera to the back of that car. And so every bump of the road sent you like this.
Yeah, it's kinda
You're,
cool.
Wagging back and forward.
Yeah, I think it was intentional though, the wiggling, because anything that's securely attached to the moving part would make the background move with every bump, and it didn't. It made the car move.
So do you think it had like a spring in it or something?
Yeah,
Yeah,
something
they
like
put
that.
like it was like mounted on like a plastic stand or something.
Right,
something that
something
could
that
just
was
kind of like
that was
bend
doing
around.
that.
Yeah.
And I was wondering about the way they shot that, because they shot every part with the car was super
Stable.
Well, it was super short. Every clip.
Yeah,
that
it
we
was
saw.
only 2 shots.
It was
with
just it was the wiggly shot, and then I was always thinking, wow, he's going really fast, and he is. Like every shot of him driving, he's like
Yeah.
he's like driving really fast.
Yeah.
And I guess that's just part of his
Another
character, but-
motif that, like a repeating theme that didn't seem to really
Didn't go anywhere,
have
yeah.
that part of the story. But
Yeah.
he always seems to be driving really fast. And the first time she drives with him, she actually kind of goes like, whoa.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually noticed that the whole film is on a dolly, static tripod, some kind of mount.
Yes.
Until the first time he gets poisoned and he's walking down the stairs feeling ill, it's handheld.
Right.
And that's like the only handheld
It actually
moment.
exaggerates the
of the
feeling
film.
of being sick.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Also, pretty much back to the score by Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead, who also did every score for PTA since There Will Be Blood.
Really?
Yeah, so he's
Nice.
been like the guy.
The There Will Be Blood score is
Crazy good.
amazing.
Yes,
Yeah.
so good.
It is wild.
Yeah. You gotta see it, D. There's the main theme of the film. That's this like arpeggiated piano that's like dun 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 dun. Every time that comes in, it's like instantly elevated to like a perfect movie for me. Just that music alone, like especially the first like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
When it's introducing everything and that music's playing, I was just like,
For a long
so
time, I
good.
was trying to figure out if I knew the music because it almost it sounded so much like something that was
Like-
licensed and taken.
Yeah,
you know,
like an orchestra, like a famous composer.
Yeah,
did
it felt like Debussy.
Yeah.
Claire de Lune
Yeah.
kind of music.
But it was original score, which is super impressive. 'Cause
It
that's like
was-
the best original theme
It's a
I've heard in a
very
film
good score.
in a long time.
Yeah, score was great. The cinematography was really, really good. Art design.
There was a really cool shot that I wanted to talk about real quick.
Yeah?
When he realized his mistake and chased after her when she went to the party. And he was up on the balcony and he experienced the countdown by himself.
Yeah.
And you could feel that
It
he's
was
like
sad.
looking for her.
Yeah.
He's sad.
Yeah.
His eyes are a little watery, but he had a silhouette. The only time there was a silhouette in the film was when he's on the balcony looking out and he's like separated from everyone else. And I just loved that. I loved
Yeah,
that part.
it
It
was
was also
beautiful.
one of the only wide shots in the film,
Oh wow, yeah.
which was weird.
That was a sad scene.
That was a cool, sad scene.
That was
Yeah.
also a crazy scene.
Yeah.
I loved that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love movies that put on. I mean, what? There had to have been like 300 extras.
Yeah.
Tons of costumes.
For like 10 seconds.
Balloon drop. All these like giant floats. An elephant. And
Yeah, I love that about movies. You can just do so much just for so little.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, they had a 30-second scene that took place in the Swiss Alps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the real Swiss Alps, guys.
Yeah.
That was 30 seconds of the story. It didn't.
They
didn't
like
have
flew out there
Didn't have to
shoot
be
that.
there.
Yeah,
but that
speaking
was
of which-
definitely really in the Swiss Alps.
This movie was shot in like 3 locations, it seemed. Right? There was like the house,
Yeah.
the ballroom, and outside.
Yeah, yeah.
That was interesting.
It's weird because like that is true, but it doesn't feel like a one location movie.
Most
like, it
of
feels
it's in
way,
two spots. Most
Yeah.
of it's in the
house.
London house
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
countryside house.
Yeah.
Right.
It feels a lot bigger in scope than it actually is.
I like how it felt bigger in scope, but the characters were so focused.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything was so much about those 3 characters.
Yeah.
Cyril, Alma, and Woodcock. I thought that was really interesting.
Cyril, yeah.
Yeah.
I liked Cyril's character the best.
Yeah, I liked her.
I
too.
thought she was like really terrible and scary at the beginning, and then I realized she had the most humanity.
Right.
Yeah.
Of the
Yeah.
group.
She understands
Yeah.
everything that's going on emotionally.
Yeah, you're like, oh, you're actually human. These other guys are weird.
Yeah.
Like, Woodcock and Alma are freaking weirdos.
Yeah, they are. I love the operation he has there in his house, though, with his whole staff coming each day and
Yeah.
and designing his dresses, at breakfast and overseeing the production. I mean, it just looked cool. Like what he had going on was cool.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
that guy was awesome.
Yeah.
You just didn't want to know about his personal life,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Which unfortunately the whole film is.
Yes, that's right. Have we run out of things to say?
I guess so.
I think so. I've voiced everything I wanted to say.
All right, let's do our wrap-up thoughts.
All right. I thought it was fantastic. I totally loved it.
If we had a rating system, you would rate it highest,
I would,
top marks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Top
Way
marks.
up there. Yeah.
Okay.
It's I like some other Paul Thomas Anderson movies more, but it's definitely like super super high quality for a film. And it does stuff that you don't always get in movies, and that's what I like out of movies is just show me something different. Do something original.
That is what I liked very much about this film.
Yeah.
Originality, no pandering.
Mhm.
I love that.
Yeah, none, no pandering, which is fantastic. It's just a film.
Right. Exactly.
And if we had a rating system, you would give it.
I'd give it top marks.
Wow, here we go. Look at this. Look at this.
Wow.
Not for people who like me. I just don't enjoy this kind of film. But
As a cinematic achievement,
yes, but as cinema, it's great.
Yeah.
yes, it is a well done movie. It is. I wouldn't. It came out in 2017, by the way, so
Cool.
we can add it to our list of movies from last year.
All right.
I wouldn't put it up there with my favorite movies of the whole year, but more so because it's not necessarily the type of movie I just enjoy sitting down and dissolving into, but holy cow, some of it was done so well. So if you want a treat for the eyes, and if you want a mind-bending relationship saga, This is a good choice for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Emotional
Yeah.
twists all around
And
here.
a freaking like frustrating relationship drama.
That.
Yeah.
That's what
Frustrating
it is.
relationship
Yeah,
drama.
with no payoff.
What would
It's a
you,
frustrating emotional saga with no payoff.
what would
With
you
a
give it
bizarre payoff.
out of marks?
As a film, it gets top marks
Yeah.
because the performances were fantastic.
Oh yeah.
The art direction, costume, and design was amazing. Cinematography was beautiful, and man, I love the musical score too. So it had all the pieces that you would hope to have in a really good movie, and it certainly gave us something to talk about.
That it did.
Yeah. Next week we are going to go see I, Tanya.
Yeah.
Which I'm really I've heard some very good things about this. I lived through that and remember it well.
Nice.
The whole Nancy Kerrigan, Tanya Harding story. Taylor's too young.
I have no idea what any of it is.
I don't know what any of it is. Either.
Oh man, so good. It's a sports story that even you guys would like. Yeah, but we'll save that for next week's podcast. But the reason I bring it up is because if you, fair listeners, have made it all the way to the end of the podcast now and can hear this part of our conversation, we invite you to give us your questions or comments about I, Tanya, either on our Facebook page, which can be found on Facebook.
Facebook page on
Studios.
Facebook.
Carmen Line Studios on Facebook. And then what's our Twitter handle?
We are K-line_studio.
K-Line
Underscore
Studios.
Yes.
At K-Line_Studios. Tweet your questions at us or your comments about I, Tanya. Whether you see the movie or not, we will share them on the program next week. And just a reminder, we have many other pieces of media and programs available for your enjoyment. If you just can't get enough of these faces and voices, check out Confirmed, our video game podcast starring Dee and Taylor. Of course, WTF M. Night Shyamalan is there for your listening enjoyment or bewilderment. And much, much more coming soon. So follow us on Twitter or on Facebook. What?
I'm gonna hint.
What?
We might have a new show coming out.
We
Whoa.
just very might, because we can't control ourselves. We keep coming up with new ideas and decide to do them concurrently with all the other things we're doing.
Look forward to it. I think it's a really cool idea.
Yeah. Well, until next time. I lost my mate bottle.
Oh, no.
Jeez, so
Okay.
no. Oh, really cool.
So thanks for listening, everybody.
Yep.
And until next time, I'm Kenny.
I'm D.
And I'm Taylor.
And we will see you at the Talkies.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Oh, I wasn't recording.
Well, all right. Let's do it again. So,
You ought to be in pictures. You're wonderful to see. You ought to be in pictures. Oh, what a hit you would be. Your voice would thrill an